So here's what's been on my mind lately. I've been doing all of this eco printing with the steam method, and I'm very happy with it overall. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I wish there was a way to add color like you do when you boil your pages. You can, you know, put them in a dye bath and you get that added color to them, because I really, really like that. But I can't figure out how to make that work with the steaming method, because these are not submersed in the water, they're above it. So that's in the back of my mind. And then I was watching a video from my friend Meri over at the Meri Atelier, and I inspired her to try the steaming method on her eco prints, and she did, and she wasn't really happy with the results she got. And y'all, this happens. They're not all winners. And to me, it's kind of like gel printing. There are so many variables that sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not, and you just got to hit that sweet spot. So yeah, I get a lot of duds. They're not all winners. But she turned her duds into winners using walnut ink. And she did this, it looked like her bundle just came out of the steamer. She still had her plant material on there, and she used walnut ink to go around her plant matter. Oh my gosh, super, super cool results. So I thought, okay. So that was in the back of my mind. And then I went to Hobby Lobby, and usually when I go to a craft store, I head straight to the clearance section and I see what's on clearance, and then I try to figure out if there's something I can do with whatever's on clearance. Like, I don't even shop the regular price stuff at all. I don't even look at it because I'll be tempted. If it's not marked down, if it's not wounded, I'm not taking it home. So I was looking over in the calligraphy section, and they had some calligraphy inks half price. So I picked up, I probably got 5 or 6 of the calligraphy inks. So that's in the back of my mind, along with Meri reworking her not so awesome eco prints, along with my desire to figure out how to get a dye bath look without submerging my pages. So all of that kind of came together, and I did this. And after I bought my little inks here, I had some plant stuff in my pots outside, so I just clipped some off. I put together a little bundle and steamed them, you know, just like I showed in the last video. But before they went in the steamer, I had it all bundled up. I had the little clips on, ready to go. And what I did was I ran some hot water just along the edges so that it would seep in and, you know, make sure that all of my pages were wet. And then these have a little dropper. I just took my dropper of, I think this was this ink in particular, and went all around the edges and just made kind of blobs, and then put more water so that it would run. And then I put this into the steamer. And when it came out, this is what I got, which I think is very cool. It's not exactly the results that you would get with a dye bath, but it was still kind of awesome. And I really, really like these results. And I will probably do this again. No, I'll definitely do this again on my future batches. But, you know, my little plants are struggling to keep up with the demand that I put on them. I know they're out there going, I just bloomed. You picked it off in its prime. What do you want from me? They really say that. I'm sure I can hear them. So yeah, they're trying to produce to keep up with me. But until they do that, you know, I've got this box full of prints, and some of them are just not my favorite. And, you know, I mean, that's like perfect. Sometimes you get perfection, but you don't always get perfection. So I've got, set these aside. I pulled out and went through all my prints, and I just pulled out stacks of things that were like, this is okay, but it's not wow. How can I make this wow? And I've got this stack of, you know, okay, but not wow. And we're going to play with this today. I'm going to show you what I did. I went through and after all my pages were done, I made a blue dye bath type thing and then just kind of painted my pages a little bit. And I really like how this turned out. And just depending on what the page was, are we upside down here? I don't even know. Some of them I just did, you know, kind of a border thing. Some of them I just dunked into the dye bath that I made, because these are from way back. I don't even know what's in here. And when I say way back, I mean way back. Like some of them I was still trying to figure out what kind of papers work best, and I did a lot of them in papers that didn't really work well. They kind of crumbled and fell apart, which is actually kind of gorgeous, and I think that these would make awesome inclusions in a journal, but maybe not necessarily, you know, this is really kind of brittle. I don't think I would want to fold this into a page, but I'll use it on a page. I could make just some amazing masterboards out of these. Look at this. Aren't these fabulous? And these were dud eco prints. Do you see any plant matter on here? You know, like there's almost nothing. But collage pages? Oh, heck yeah. So, I'm going to show you what I did. And dud is not always plain. Okay, like, to me, this is just sad. And, you know, even though it got some stuff on there, there's just not a lot. There's a lot of white space. And white space isn't necessarily bad because, okay, like this one, there's a lot of white space, but look how awesome that white space is. See, this is very cool. It had one little bloom, but that bloom just bled out in such an amazing way that that's all it needed. You know, this is like minimalist awesome. This is minimalist not so awesome. So yeah, I just went through down this whole thing. I dyed some of the ones that I wasn't real happy with, and now they're awesome. Some I will use it as book pages. You know, my goal is to make 20 books for my retreat guests coming up next year. So yeah, I did reworked some covers, some inside pages, and then some that were, you know, really already pretty good that I liked. I just left those alone, like that one, that. Yeah, these were good just like they were. So I left those be. So this is what I'm going to show you today. Let's get this out of the way. I'm just going to show you how to rework some of your not so awesome eco prints if you get some, because, you know, like I said, it does happen. And oh, I want to show you this too. Hang on, let me find it. Yeah, like, okay, this is another one of those crumbly papers that you know, didn't quite work out. I did it years ago. Nothing really printed on it, and then the paper crumbled, and then I tore it. But look how cool that would be, like, as a pocket. I could totally do that. And then put a tag that has some kind of a print on it. Oh, yeah. Or, you know, and then put something here. I don't know, as a background. But these, yeah, don't throw away your duds. Because they still have a chance. We can do stuff with them. So, and I forgot to mention last time when I was talking about, you know, using plants that you've got or what's easily available to you. You can ask at your grocery store if they've got any flowers. If your grocery store has a floral department, or even if you're near a florist, go in and ask them if they have anything that's destined for the trash. Because I did that at my Whole Foods the other day. And I've done it there before, so, you know, they kind of know. They're like, oh, yeah, you can have them. But the first time I did it, I just asked, I went to the floral department and said, do y'all happen to have any flowers that are going to be thrown in the trash? You know, they're beyond donating. Because they do sometimes donate to hospitals or nursing homes. And she was like, oh, yeah, we've got all these. So they gave me the other day literally an armload of flowers. Some still looked great, some not so great, but I was able to use pretty much all of them to do a whole huge batch of eco printing. So that's an option for you, because they do, if the flowers get too icky, they do just take them straight to the trash, and we can use them. So some of these have those on them, and some are stuff from my yard. But let me just show you what I did to kind of spruce up some previously done stuff that I wasn't too happy with. And there's some that I did that, you know, I got the dye on it, but I still wasn't real happy with it. So I'm going to add another color to some of these. I'm going to try and make a pink bath. And I think ideally, you know, you might want to use like Rit dye, which I have, and I have a lovely pink here that I have used before, but we don't. And see, I got it on clearance because this is what I do. I bought it because it was, you know, like super wounded, and then I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but it comes. Then you figure out what to do with it. So I also have these that I bought like a billion years ago. They're Dr. P.H. Martin's concentrated watercolors. They are so incredibly concentrated that I've probably had these 20 years. And y'all, there's still some in the bottle because you can dilute them a lot. So I'm using things I had on hand. I had some, made the blue dye. I had some fluid acrylic, ultramarine blue fluid acrylic from Golden. I used some of that. I used some of these. I did not use cheap craft paint. I don't think that's the best thing to use here. Number one, it's going to dilute you'd have to use a ton of it just to get decent color. And then you've got the acrylic base to worry about with sticking, because the way I'm going to show you, I stack my papers. And you really need kind of a watercolor type pigment to do that. So, that being said, I've got my inks here. I got this one was completely gone. It just had some flakes of color in it. So I added some water to see if it would come back to life, and I don't know. I think it's still going to be pretty light. This is just plain water, and my, see the little hard pieces are still, yeah, this may not be a good idea to use. Some of them melted in here, and then some didn't, so I don't know about that one. I've got this, does have an acrylic base, but it is enough of a, it's thin enough and pigmented enough that I think it might work. This is Shimmer Mist from Deco Art Media. And let's just see. Ooh, well that got happy. Oh, I like that. And keep in mind that what you see in here, even though it may look like super dark, once you put it on the paper and then that paper dries, it's going to lighten up a lot. So I'm going to add a, what is this? Red, flame red. Or not. Okay, that's not really doing a whole lot. Let me look and see if I've got another red. I think I do. What is this? Scarlet and crimson. Okay, let's try crimson. Okay. And then let's see what scarlet does. Okay, that's a little wimpier red. That's okay. See, it looks like, ooh, dark pink. And then you put it on paper and it's practically nothing. So I'm gonna add, hang on, let me go find some stuff. So I found a vintage Meri re-inker. This is a dye-based re-inker in magenta. There's a good chance this has been diluted, but we'll just see. Oh. Okay. That deepened the color. I feel the need to put on an apron. I better do that now. Okay, I also found some more fluid acrylics, which I think will be okay to use sparingly. This is Deco Art Media Quinacridone Magenta. This water was warm when I put it in the bowl, but it's been sitting for a while. I just find that the pigments usually melt better in warm water, just from the tap. Ah, better pigment. That might actually be good enough. So, and like I said, you know, Rit dye, yes, quick and easy. Use that, but if you don't happen to have any, look around and see what you've got that you can make into a dye. Oh yeah, that's going to be gorgeous. So that's what it looks like wet. And usually when my pages, I let them dry a little bit so that they're just damp. And then I iron them out the rest of the way, so it kind of dries them while it flattens them. Then I want to make sure this doesn't fade out to nothing. I think this is going to be good. Yeah. You make the color as light or as intense as you want to, but make sure that, you know, before you start doing your thing, do a test piece and dry it so that you can see how it's really going to look. Otherwise you might be a little disappointed if it dries too light. I think that's just right. It's going to give us some beautiful color. Now, I'm going to put this here. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess and dyeing my carpet. But this is an old towel that I'm going to set my pages on. I am going to wear gloves. And I've got my stack of papers. These are ones that haven't been dyed at all. I'm going to do some on. And then I've got this stack of stuff that I dyed with blue, but I just felt like they still wanted something else. So let's just see if I was right about what they want. So I'm going to take and let's start with some of the covers. And this is how I did that last batch. Oh, let me show you. This is how it looks, and this is on the watercolor paper, so it just kind of bled around the edges. So it's almost like it made a frame for the prints, right? So I took this is just a chip brush, 2-inch cheap chip brush. Just something to kind of do this with. If you dip it straight in, you get too much of a line. So I use this to kind of smear. I'm just using the flat edge of the brush and do it on both sides. Just kind of wobbly so that you don't get a straight line. And then turn it over and do the other side. I don't worry about drips or fingerprints or any of that because I want it to be messy on purpose. I don't want brush edges. And then there you have it. And let that dry. And go through and do the same with all the rest of them. You're going to want to make sure you line your work area good because, yeah, splatters and drips and fingerprints and all that. So there's that. And then my interior pages are just, what am I trying to say? Cardstock. So I do the same thing with those. Now they will get a little delicate when you start, you wet them around the edge. They get pretty delicate. So just carefully and you don't have to open them up and do both sides if you don't want. Do what makes you happy, y'all. You do you. And that just makes kind of a little framed edge. And remember, it's going to dry a lot lighter than you see when it's wet. Now, let's do another of those. You can just do like this if you want. Whatever's easiest for you. You can do that middle space or not. Just keep in mind if you're making a book, the more you mess with that crease, the weaker it's going to get. So yeah, just be careful with it. As I say that, and then I completely soak it. So there's this stack. Now some of these, I'll show you some of these that I already dyed and I just wasn't real happy with. I wonder what will happen if I just do that. Like that. And I'm going to do, let's do this. Let's put a plain one here and then this one on top of here so they can kind of dye each other. And then I'll do this one on top. See, I'm just making sandwiches so that that dye will sink through. It won't completely dye the page next to it, but you can just get some interestingness. So we'll see what happens. Now, and remember, these are going to get real delicate. Not all of these are cardstock. Some of these are from previous dyeing episodes where I just used paper. And some of these also have, well, maybe not. Some of these also have glycerin on them because I was experimenting to see if there were ways that I could keep the intensity of the color while they dried, and I thought maybe if I put glycerin on them as they're drying, oh, make a pattern. If I put glycerin on them, maybe that would help it hold its color. It did not, so don't bother, but it did make the paper really soft and kind of interesting. So yeah, there's that. But the glycerin ones, when you put them in the dye like this, the dye kind of beads up on them, and it looks really cool. So I'm just going to keep on until I've got everything done. And by the way, this is why I chose pink, because some of them already have the blue on them. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I chose to over dye would go okay with the blue. So the pink and the blue is going to make some purple, and I'll be okay. I'll just do one side. Let's see how that works. That one there. So this is just all kinds of fun for me. This one I think probably had some glycerin on it at one point. Anyway, I'm just going to sit here and do this, and then when they're done, I'll probably wait until they're dry, and I'll come back and show you what we end up with, and where we can go from there. Okay? Alrighty, I'll be back. Well, they're not dry yet, but I just thought of something else I need to show you. Okay, so this is one that had glycerin on it, and you can see how, I mean, I totally dipped it into the dye, and it kind of beat it up, you know, like it was coated with something, which it was, glycerin. So that's the look I got. I don't know what I'm going to get when I redo it, but let's just see. And I also wanted to come back and show you what happens when you start pulling these apart. I want to show you that, you know, I can actually probably show you right now. If you're just careful about it, you can pull them apart. I usually do this with my gloves off because I have to be able to feel, but they will come apart without sticking and without tearing if you're careful. So yes, stacking them like this is perfectly fine. Actually, they dry pretty quick because, you know, I've got some of them I soaked, some of them I didn't. So they're kind of absorbing each other, and it actually dries kind of fast. So don't be nervous about doing that as long as you're using, you know, a heavy text weight heavy paper, or most of mine are lightweight cardstock or the watercolor paper. You won't have any problems. So now I will legit be back when these are dry. All of my dyed papers are all dry now, and I am really happy with how they've turned out. You know, some of them have the blue, and I just still wasn't real happy with them, so I added the pink. Some just had kind of meh prints, so I added pink. Some I dipped completely in. You know, this just makes me so happy, because, you know, the how they were before was kind of not so great, and if they're not so great, it makes me not want to use them because they're not so great. But this just makes them so much better. This makes me happy. They've got beautiful color, so I will definitely be using them. These are some of the covers with the watercolor paper that are just so much better now. So yeah, I'm super happy with these. I even reworked some of the papers that I just had earmarked for collage, and some of those crumbly ones. Remember this one? I just went ahead and dipped it in the pink, so with the blue it turned a little purple, and I think just depending on how I had it stacked in my, you know, I had all the papers stacked, and some of them were next to super inky pages and some of them were next to plain ones. So that, I think, is part of the reason for the variation in the intensity of the color, which is kind of exciting. Some of them just ended up really super dark pink, and then some just barely pink, and I like that a lot. See, big difference in that. So yeah, gosh, I will do this again. Now I'm just kind of looking around seeing what other papers I have laying around that I can just dip into dye made from whatever pigmented water-based paints I've got on hand. So yeah, don't give up if your eco prints don't turn out exactly the way you want. You can definitely rework them. You can do them like this, the dyeing that I did, or you can go watch Meri and see how she used her walnut inks to make her papers absolutely spectacular. So you have options, fun options. And if you accidentally splatter some ink on, you know, this one I had set aside because I did this was my first one that I did, and it was sitting over here, and I splattered some pink. I think it was this splatter was the one that got on it, and I went, oh crap, because I didn't want it to be pink, and it just got on the cover, not the inside pages. So I just went ahead and splattered on the rest of them to make it look like it was on purpose. Problem solved, because what do we always say? One is a mistake, but a whole bunch is a technique. So yeah, that worked out great. So that is all I have. I hope you enjoyed this and that you will do some eco printing, and if you get some that you're not too crazy about, you have options for fixing those up a little bit, and so you can have yourself a big old stash of, yeah, I don't know what, because that's a whole box of happy right there. So for now, that is it. The end.